Syndicated presents Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian.
What is up? Nice to see my pal Shep again, and glad that you are joining us as well. Thank you so much for that. So much to get into. Shep, where do we even start? We had Michigan State, the strangest Michigan State week I can recall, for the record, and not just because I was over in Europe.
Yeah, well, let's start there because I was at some tailgates in Ann Arbor, and a lot of people came up to me and said how much they enjoyed this. So it made me feel pretty good. Yeah, it was really nice. I don't say that lightly. It meant a lot to me, and I told them I'd pass that along to you. So I want to make sure I did that. I'm glad you're back safely from Europe. I know you had a great time. That's awesome because you deserve it. I thought it's a pretty good example, I think, of perhaps the best team doesn't always win. That is not always the case in sports. I mean, people have to understand that, and I hope they do. You know, two statistics that jumped out at me, Sean. Michigan didn't have a penalty in the game, and the turnover. And I thought those were huge, and obviously the missed field goal. You know, I thought if you walk away from that game and you're a certain whatever fan base, if you're a Michigan State fan, I bet you feel pretty good. Not that you lost. I think the direction of your program, you should feel good. The way your team now plays, running the football and winning the battle in the trenches. Are there concerns about your quarterback and his taking care of the football? Absolutely. He's a young kid. This would probably concern me a little bit more if it were next year. But I think Jonathan Smith has them on the right track, and I think they should be really encouraged with that. And if you're Michigan, you feel like you got away with one to a certain extent, number one. And number two, I think you recognize the challenges that it's going to be, if you haven't already, if you don't have a premier signal caller. Got to have one. And there's no way they can move forward without getting one in the offseason, right? No way.
You just said something, Shep, and I've kind of dubbed it the cult of Chiles. Is what I'm calling it right now, because I have ticked off some Michigan State fans, and they did the whole "you're not a real Spartan" routine and everything. By the way, we still need an elite pass rusher to win the Super Bowl. We'll get to that, Mr. Positive. Good evening to Tom in London, Ontario. Shep, everything you said about Aidan Chiles is true. He's still young. He's incredibly talented. I am not in any way, shape, or form writing this kid off. Okay. But this is absolutely positively a both things are true situation. Can he be all those things? Well, sure he can. Right now, that kid's struggling. He's missing passes. He's turning the ball over. Shep, you know a little something about the quarterback position, so you can probably speak to this better than I can. One thing I've seen out of he doesn't have a real good feel for the pocket. In my mind, he doesn't, the whole eyes behind the head thing. How many times have that feel that you hear quarterbacks talk about it? So again, and I know somebody's going to hear this and go, I can't believe you're bashing Chiles. Well, what part of what I'm saying isn't true? Again, I'm not saying that I'm done with the guy, but it's one thing to sit back and let's call it for what it is. The kid's struggling.
Well, first of all, anybody who questions your loyalty to Michigan State has paid attention to you long enough, number one. But number two, then they're blind. They're just blind followers. I mean, you can still love a team and be a fan of a team and still criticize that team. Can you not? And if you can't, then there's no point in having a discussion with somebody.
Right.
I think Aidan Chiles' upswing is pretty high. I actually thought he looked pretty good against Iowa. So
no question.
Okay, so I think what you're getting right now is you're getting what any first-year starter would bring you, for the most part, and that is inconsistency.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, the feel for the pocket, I thought he wiggled his way out of a lot of jams, and I've seen that a lot this week. I think the feel thing, if you stop right there, he struggles a little bit with the feel, period, then I think you're right. The turnover, for example, Saturday night when he's rolling, he knows where the blitz is coming from the backside. So you know that pressure is coming. You're rolling away from it. give him some credit because he's waiting for his wide receivers to adjust, reroute, and get some, find some opening. But you have to feel that.
Yep.
In your head, there's a clock, and you know how much time you have. And I think that needs to, there's that old cliche, Sean, the game slows down for you. I think it happens to everybody, man. Absolutely. And I think, he'll get there with time. But I think right now that's the hard adjustment for him. I really do.
Yeah. And again, every time I have this conversation, Shep, I have to do what I'm about to do. I'm not saying it's a failure. I'm not saying that this is, Stephen Threet. I'm not saying this is Andrew Maxwell. I'm not saying, go down the list of heroes that never were.
Right.
I'm saying right now, let's call it for what it is. This is a young man who's struggling, and I refuse to call him something that he isn't at this point in time.
Yeah, I would say I think he struggled against Michigan. Like I said, I thought he was okay against Iowa. They're gonna win 2 more games. I'm confident of that. I think they'll both be bowl eligible.
Yep.
Michigan will probably win 1 more game. They'll be bowl eligible, and everybody will be able to sit back and nitpick after the season. Would you be saying that had Michigan State found a way to win at the end? I hope you would.
Yep.
Just because a team wins doesn't mean that everything's fine, right?
I started after the Iowa game, to be honest with you. It was nice to see, but more often than not, that's not what we're seeing.
Right. So that's the hard part, especially at that position. How do you gain more consistency like that? A lot of guys deal with it. He's just dealing with it right now. So I do. I think they're winning the way you have to win, or playing the way you have to play at this stage. You know how we talked earlier during the baseball season, like if a team doesn't have a lot of offense, if they're a young team, like the Tigers, how do you stay in games? How do you stay in races? How do you stay in series? Pitching and defense. And you hope the offense comes. The power comes a little bit later. Riley Green, career high number of home runs, 24 this year. Why? The power's starting to come a little bit for him. All right. In football, I don't think it's too dissimilar. Okay. I think the reading and the reacting and the feel for the pocket for a young quarterback, I think that comes in time.
Yep. Good call there. Yeah. And by the way, I agree with you. I think both of these teams are staring at 6-6. I think they're both. So, Michigan will knock off Northwestern. I think Michigan State will win their last 2. Both are at home, so that's a bonus. I'm actually going this Saturday, taking my little girl. So I'd love for them to pull an upset against Indiana, but
Indiana's good, man.
Indiana's good. I'm glad you seriously. I was going to go there. Indiana is legit. I mean,
they are fun to watch, man. They are fun to watch. Sean, I look at Indiana's offense. So I'm sitting there in the stands. My wife and I are watching Michigan State, and I turned to her and I said, Michigan's offense is so unimaginative. There's no creativity. It's like 3 wide, 1 on the short side. So you got 4 with an empty set. And I'm thinking, there's very little motion, right? I hate to compare everything to the Lions, but they have the best offense in football, all right? The man at the helm, Ben Johnson, is truly one of the more creative offensive minds we've seen in football in the last 20 years. Honestly.
Sorcerer. He's a sorcerer. He's a sorcerer. Yes.
He seems like, whatever movie you want to put him in as the sorcerer, go right ahead. Goblet of Fire or whatever the hell that stuff is, go right ahead. But I don't mean to sound like everybody's got to be like that. And creativity is not flea flickers, all right? It's not passing to offensive linemen. I'm talking about how you line up wide receivers, what kind of motion you put them in, which way they're going. Sometimes you're stacked, sometimes you're trips, sometimes you're doing different things with your receivers and your tight ends, and making the defense communicate to one another and making it really hard to get an idea of where they're going because there's so many things you run out of it. That's creativity to me.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Hey, let me talk all about catering, and then I want to get to some of your comments. There's some interesting stuff out there already, Shep. But All About Catering LLC is a full service caterer, graduations, weddings, bridal showers, corporate events. Heck, you want to have a football party where you're not cooking, anything you need catering for, from 25 to 4,000 people. All About Catering can and we'll take care of you. Customer service and satisfaction is their number one goal. So don't sweat your next big event. Just go to allaboutcateringllc.com today to see their menus and all their 5-star reviews. Give them a call. 586-731-1398. Get your event started. Rick and the gang will take care of you. Thank you. This makes me miss the 11:30 days. Yeah, they were fun days. They really were. It was great to talk. Eric, the big Yankee fan, said, got to get this Yanks do or die tonight. Well, not do or die just yet, but I get your point.
Here's what I want to know from any Yankees fan. And I'll preface this by saying this, Sean. I've been fortunate to interview Aaron Judge on a number of occasions. I think he's good for baseball. I think he's a hell of a player. I think he's a hell of an ambassador to baseball. What I can't figure out is his postseason numbers. And when you look at those numbers, and it's not just this World Series where he's 1 for 9 with 6 punch-outs. It's in 55 playoff games in his career. He's batting 199, Sean.
It's incredible.
And not just that. He's got 85 strikeouts and 211 at-bats. That's a 40% strikeout ratio. In other words, and I'm not going to take credit for this because somebody tweeted this the other day, baseball history nut. In other words, Judge will have more strikeouts in his career playoff games, which will be right around 55 to 60, depending on how long it goes, right, than Tony Gwynn had in his career in the final 485 games.
Unbelievable.
Now, Gwynn didn't have his power. Gwynn wasn't named, didn't have his ability to drive in runs and so on and so forth. They're different players. You're going to have to take the strikeouts with Aaron Judge. I root for him. I really do. But I can't figure out why he seems to get off track in the playoffs because those numbers are glaring for what we would call a superstar in the sport, right?
Do you know where I thought you were going? And I don't want anybody to tell Brian Cashman what he's doing wrong. It is amazing to me how year after year after year, Shep, they just have less than pitching. And they make it to the World Series. But when you look at all their success, really since for the last 20 years, I mean, when Cashman's been on board, now in fairness, they did mix in a World Series. You have to give credit. But how many times have you seen somebody just pitch the crap out of the Yankees and the Yankees can't answer? It's amazing to me.
No, I think that's a really good point. I'm not totally sold on the Dodgers pitching either, though.
No, sir.
I mean, both teams have done a really good job because of their bullpens.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I mean, I want you to think about it. What about Cleveland? What about Detroit? I'll tell you who I thought going into the entire American League playoffs, who I thought had the best starting pitching was Kansas City.
Yeah.
I thought, you knew they were going to run out a certain number of guys. Detroit passed Skubal. You and I are both going like this. The Yankees passed Cole to a certain extent. I mean, Clark Schmidt is starting tonight for crying out loud. Okay.
Yeah.
The Dodgers, I mean, you'll take Jack Flaherty, I guess. Walker Buehler's throwing tonight. I like him, but it's not like he's been fantastic or lights out. It shows you just how important the bullpen has been in these playoffs and so far in the World Series.
Tim, I think you bring up a great point, and I think we as sports fans are really guilty of this. I want to get into that in a second, but let me tell you first about Legacy Partners. Did you know that thousands of Metro Detroiters have already called Legacy to get help with their home and auto insurance? Why haven't you? Our friends at Legacy are one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents. They provide a full-service, one-stop solution for all of your insurance needs, personal and business, large and small. Legacy has helped our listeners by fixing mistakes other agents have made, asking the right questions to get the right coverage put in place to properly protect you. And by the way, help save you some money. Isn't that what everybody wants to be doing nowadays? Chances are, if you haven't checked your policies in the last year, you're paying too much and you could be underinsured. What are you waiting for? Give Legacy a chance to help with your home, your cars, life insurance, Medicare enrollment, your business insurance needs. Call them today at 586-209-4106 or visit legacypartnersins.com to get started with your new quote. Shep, I think this was something that kind of happened last year. Tim said, do you guys think we're having an easier time dealing with Michigan and Michigan State because of the Lions? I think you dealt with this in a some sort of facsimile last year. Tarek Skubal kind of let everybody know in the last month and a half of last year that he might be the best pitcher in baseball. Like to the people out there that just thought that it happened this year, it's like, weren't you guys paying attention last year? Right. And the problem is not a lot of people were paying attention because you had Michigan on the eve of what everybody knew was going to be a really good season. We didn't know exactly how good it was going to be. And you had the excitement of the Lions. So I think people the Tigers almost got put off, in the background and everything. Thanks. And I'm not saying that Michigan, sorry, Shep. And I'm not saying that Michigan State are ever going to be on the back porch, so to speak. Okay. Yeah. I mean, people live and die with it, but I think Tim has a point. It's much easier to accept these less than years. I think especially from Michigan. Well, you also won the Natty. There might be that. But with the Lions doing what they're doing, you don't have much time to think about it. It's like, well, who the Lions going to kick the crap out of next? And they usually come up to that task.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Look, we all look forward to something, right? So when we got the weekend upon us, we're jazzed that Michigan State are playing, or your favorite team may be playing. If they don't fare well, a team like Grand Valley, who was number 1 in Division II, and they lose to Ferris State. Michigan State feels like they could have easily won that game. It lasts a short period of time because by halftime of the Lions-Titans game, you're feeling a lot better about yourself. You're feeling a lot better about football in general, right? So you and I have always said this ever since I've known you. A lot of this is about expectations too.
100%.
I don't think people expected much of Michigan. I know people didn't expect much of Michigan State. And I know everybody had high expectations for the Lions. When all those expectations are met, whether you're disappointed or not, you understand it a little bit better, right?
Yep.
So I agree with all that, and I think that's an important point, and why people can. And I'm glad Tom brought that up, because it's a really good point where people in their football, their love affair with football, they can always fall back to, at least in this situation with the Lions, and how it's going to make them feel for the entire week.
2-0 Dodgers already. Freddie Freeman just went yard. Yikes.
That was Tim, by the way, not Tom. I'm sorry, Tim. I didn't mean to say Tom.
Shep, you know what I said at the beginning of the year, and I stuck with it? I said, and it's not because I thought Michigan State was great by any stretch of the imagination, but the way that schedule configured itself, I said I didn't think it was out of question to go 6-6 like that. Yeah. That was my and again I can't believe you're going slappy. It's like, no, take a deeper look at that schedule, and that was even before we found out that Indiana's a really damn good team under Coach Big, and Illinois is not so bad themselves. So we'll
I got the one game I got wrong, Sean, with Michigan State, because after they beat, I said this to you right here on Shep and Sean. I thought once they beat Maryland, they'd win 7 games.
Yeah.
The game I've gotten wrong so far for Michigan State is Boston College.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I thought. I mean, had they beaten BC, I think 7 wins definitely attainable. I think they'll win 6. I think they're on the right path. Michigan, I've been wrong about. I thought Michigan would win at least 8 games. And I say that because I thought their defense was going to be better, and I had no idea that their passing game was going to be this bad. I knew it was going to be a struggle, but I didn't think it would be this bad. So my prediction for Michigan going in, I said, okay, look, their defense could be as good, if not better, than last year. That is not the case. I still think they're better than their record would indicate, because they play a lot because their offense is so bad. But that is not the case. I said the offensive line, I think, is going to be, it'll take a little step back, but it's going to be good. It has not been as good as I thought. And no way did I ever think the quarterback situation could be as bad as it is this year so far.
Oh, it's incredible. Sean, do you miss not having Paul Bunyan in East Lansing? Absolutely. It's been 3 years. This is the longest stretch since 2007. Yeah, absolutely. And Shep, it was funny. We were talking about this the other night. I don't care what anybody says. I will say this until I'm blue in the face, and not that blue over in Ann Arbor, but I will say this until I'm blue in the face. this game means the world even in a year like this, and why it's different from anything else. And I tip of the cap, Ohio State, Michigan is probably the rivalry in college football. But the difference with this game is you don't want to see that Yahoo in his Spartan cap every day for the next 365 days. Well, hi neighbor, how are you? And things like that. I mean, that's the difference. You don't have to worry about some Buckeye fan chirping at you while you're mowing your lawn or you're taking the dog for a walk. Hi, friend, things like that, and that's it's bragging rights. It's fun, it's really fun.
So how do you describe the rivalry? Because I had Jake Butt on my show, I had Darian Harris on my show, two really good perspectives from both those men, and they likened it to brothers in the backyard fighting.
Yeah.
Whereas I think with Michigan and Ohio State, it is more like the Hatfields and the McCoys. So can't stand one another. How do you liken Michigan and the Michigan State feeling toward one another?
I think that is fair. It is your neighbor against your neighbor. It is your brother against your brother. I think that's why Mike Hart's comments in 2007 hit so hard, right? I mean, most Michigan State fans, I'm man enough to admit it, most Michigan State fans, that's how we grew up. It was like if we beat them once every 3 years, great. And then the world turned upside down and it was utter domination for a while and everything. But that's why those words stung. I mean, make no mistake about it. It was, aren't you cute, little brother? You thought you were going to have one. Oh, remember when Braylon broke your heart? No, look, we did it again. There's more validity to those comments than I think any Spartan fan really wants to admit. So who am I to argue with Darian or Butt about this? Because I think that's a very fair assessment. No doubt about that.
That's good.
By the way, Andrew said Indiana's schedule has been lacking, and there's some validity to that. They pounded UCLA at UCLA for what it's worth. They beat Maryland by 2 touchdowns. They beat Northwestern by 17. They beat Nebraska by 49, and they beat Washington by 17. Not bad. Yeah, not bad. I think they've been fun to watch.
Oh, yeah, I guess I asked, what do you mean the schedule's been lacking? I mean, Nebraska just gave Ohio State everything they could handle, right? Yeah. Washington beat Michigan, right? And granted, Iowa then marked them up pretty good. I think, look, they've done exactly what you would expect a better team to do, okay? Like the Lions against Tennessee. How many times have you and I talked about this?
Oh.
If you're a really good football team and you're playing a bad team or a less than team and you don't beat them rather handily, the masses question whether or not you're really that good. If you do beat them up and you beat them up badly, like the Lions did against Tennessee, most people say, well, that's what you're supposed to do. What did Dan Campbell say after the game? This is what champions do.
Yep.
There's no looking past the team. Right? They're not going, I can't wait for Green Bay. I can't wait for Houston because those are the next 2 games now, at Green Bay and at Houston. We're going to show people. Could there have been a letdown after beating Minnesota, first team to beat Minnesota, knowing that Tennessee's not that good, even though their defense going in was ranked very highly, first overall, third against the pass. This is what champions do. This is what really good teams do. What did Daryl Johnston say during the broadcast? Reminds me a lot of my Dallas teams.
That jumped out to me, man.
Kicked their ass. Yeah, they kicked their ass. They did exactly what you were supposed to do. It left no doubt, Sean. No doubt. Are they going to lose again? You're damn right they're going to lose again. Somebody's going to beat them, okay?
Yeah.
It happens. But still, you and I both believe this is the best team in football, period.
Yeah.
Best team.
And Andrew, I get your point. Andrew saying they haven't played anybody. They're fun. They're good. I just want to see them play a ranked team. I think that's fair. How good is Indiana? Is a fair thing to say. I don't know. We'll have to wait for that. Shep, I laughed out loud when you brought that up just a second ago, because when Moose said that, you know this about me. I've got a very, very strange memory, and you can fact check me on this. Yes. It was 33 years ago, the exact same date, October 27th, 1991, where the Lions played the upstart, young, brash Cowboys and the Eric Kramer era. Literally, little did we know that we needed the Eric Kramer era, but it started when Rodney Peete rolled out and blew out his Achilles against the Dallas Cowboys that night. And I was at that game. And then, of course, we know a few months later, Game 7 of the World Series was that night, by the way. Smoltz and Morris. You remember when you used to get the free pizza if the Lions scored over 30 points? We went to Buddy's and watched Smoltz and Morris and Buddy's. What a great night. Oh, great night. But listen, little did we know, that was going to be part one and then obviously the playoff game. And I still, when Moose said that, I started to cry a little bit. A tear came down my face because it's the whole Pat Summerall, John, I think we're looking at the two teams from the 90s.
Yep.
That old, they go win 3 of the next 4 Super Bowls and we don't win another playoff game. But when he said that, I was like, wow, that's pretty good. Yeah. They took their lumps last year, like the Cowboys took their lumps, and then they were an absolute wagon the year after that. That Dallas team was a wagon in 92, and we know what happened. So.
Yeah, but you get 2 national guys who've seen a lot of football in their lives, right? And one of them won 100 games as a coach in a Super Bowl, and they're saying these are the 2 teams in the 90s. That got me all fired up. I remember when I heard that too. It was incredible. Just the last, my only thing is the last thing on Indiana is, and I get it. People want proof. Okay, we want receipts, if you will. You can only play who's on your schedule, right? And how much does it truly matter if they're ranked? Case in point, Florida State earlier this year, they were ranked 10th. You think that looks like a good win for anybody right now?
Yeah,
probably not. Michigan is ranked 9th. You think that looks like a really good win for teams under their belt right now? Probably not. I look at how a team plays. I look at where they play. I look at how they go about their business. Indiana, seemingly every single Saturday, they look like they know what they're doing. They look like they're in control, and they look so confident that no one's going to beat them. So I don't give a crap if the team they're playing is ranked or not. If it takes you to figure out if you believe in a team because they had to finally beat a ranked team, I don't know, man. I mean, then you must have really been a big believer in Northern Illinois because they beat a ranked Notre Dame team and then lost to Buffalo. And a little bit later on, lost to another MAC team. I'm just not a big believer in that. So.
You guys are on fire tonight. I want to get to more of your comments. Let me tell you about my buddies, Jeff and Mike at the Wealth Advantage Group. I actually had lunch with these guys today. And if you're ready to take charge of your financial future, look no further than the Wealth Advantage Group. Located in historic downtown Northville, owned by 2 brothers with over 20 years of industry experience. And Shep, when we go to lunch, all we do is talk about college football. But you know what they understand the most? That your financial goals are as unique as you are. And that's why they offer personalized expert guidance to help navigate the complexities of financial planning. Now, whether you're saving for retirement, we had that talk today, getting ready to sell your company, or already in retirement, they can help guide you through every step of your financial journey. They work with clients throughout all stages of life and have clients in over 20 states. Look, the investment world is a complex one. So if you're ready to start taking your finances more seriously, it might be time to work with the experts. Reach out to my friends at the Wealth Advantage Group. That's Mike Husak on the left, Jeff Husak on the right. Aaron's outstanding as well. Give them a call at 248-773-8574 or visit their website at www.thewealthadv.com. Shep, here's a good question for you, and I'm sure you and I both know the same story about Eric Kramer, so I'll let you do it. Tim said, Matt, does Eric Kramer compare favorably to Goff? I think they are a lot alike.
No. Jared Goff is much better than Eric Kramer. Taller.
Jared Goff is
more accurate, better command. I don't even think it's close.
Jared Goff is going to listen to his offensive coordinator as well. And Jared Goff is going to say, hey, we got a pretty good offensive coordinator. Whereas
he did have a better offensive coordinator than Eric Kramer.
Yeah, right? I think you know where I'm going with this. Eric Kramer is basically going to say, screw you, I'm doing things my way. And that is a true story, legitimately. And that's part of the reason why they didn't want
OC? It wasn't Tom Moore, was it?
I think it was Mouse left, right?
Oh,
Did Mouse leave
yeah,
after
yeah,
90? I think
yeah.
Mouse left
Yeah,
after. I
Mouse
think
was
Mouse
gone.
left after.
I think he was
Yeah.
gone. I was trying to think if it was Tom Moore, because Tom Moore's a hell of an offensive coordinator. Of course, the Lions didn't keep him long enough. It helps to go and have great quarterbacks like Peyton Manning in Indianapolis. No, but personally, I mean, I don't think it's even close. I mean, Jared Goff has done just something that I don't think no one's ever done in football over or a 5 game stretch. His completion percentage is 85%, and he's I forget exactly what it was. I saw this. I
Dave
saw this.
Levy, by the way, Shep. Dave
Oh,
Levy.
Dave, oh my
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
just horrific,
Yeah.
absolutely horrific. But yeah, I saw this tweet earlier today, Sean. I'm sorry that I don't have exactly, but
That's all
Jared
right.
Goff has done something that no quarterback has ever done in NFL history with his completion percentage and something else. So I got to see if I can find that. It blows my mind, but it's true. All the stuff that he's done. If you watch and you follow Dan Orlovsky, you'll really feel good about it because Dan Orlovsky is really breaks down the Lions pretty well and gives you an idea of just how good he's been. I don't even think they're in the same stadium. How about you?
No,
Yeah.
I'm with you there. Todd jumped. Fonts fired Henning, put Kramer in as starter, and hired Levy. And I'm telling you for a fact, an undeniable fact,
Yeah.
that Eric Kramer would get a call in and basically in the huddle say words that I can't say on this fine program, or Todd would put up the swear jar and say, "We're going to do it this way." And the guys in the huddle loved it, and the coaches hated it. And the Lions subsequently won games. True story.
I'll be honest with you. I did not know that.
Oh, okay.
So
I can tell you when the
I'm
show ends, I'll tell you how I know that.
What's
I
that?
bet you can I said when the show ends, I'll tell you how I know that, and I bet you can figure it out.
Oh well,
But
I've already figured that part out. I just never knew it. That's not a real subtle hint.
that wasn't the riddle, right? Shep, I loved what the Lions did yesterday. You said it best. You know what? When you're a good team, don't mess around. Go pound them.
Yeah.
Go do that. How many times have we seen, why are you struggling with this team? That is a woeful Tennessee Titans team. I mean, they are terrible.
Yeah, it's also easier said than done, though.
Sure.
Just say go out and pound those guys. That's not an easy thing to do, right?
Nope.
But yet they did it. And what I liked most about what the Lions did Sunday is you could tell like everybody's always engaged. It's like a well-run company. It's like when you and I first worked at DFN and everybody loved one another and we all were in harmony and stuff. That's what the Lions are to me. You could tell at the end, they're like, you know what, we got to get some other people involved here, and we're gonna try and get somebody else a touchdown, right? They are so happy for one another. It shows you, maybe this word is overused. It shows you the culture, though.
Oh,
The way these guys pull together is really encouraging. That's why I think they're the best team in football because of their talent, but also because of how they go about their business. You don't see there's no Tyreek Stevenson out there, Sean. There's
no.
nobody. There's no dude for Chicago who's got his back to the line of scrimmage at the goal line and not even looking at the play, and then suddenly Washington gets a Hail Mary, right? And he's over there jawing at the fan base for Washington. What a joke that was.
Oh.
The Lions go about their business. They have fun, but they're serious.
Yep.
I love it.
One more thing before we get out of here. When it's time to get yourself a new house, you're buying, you're selling, oftentimes both, you need to contact the right agent. Who do we recommend? Alakazam, Alakazoo. There's Lindsay Broadwell for you. Your house is probably the biggest investment you'll ever make, and that's why you need a pro. Lindsay grew up on the main streets of Northville and has expanded her team all over Southeast Michigan. She's an expert in all facets of the business, and when it's time to move, our friend Lindsay and her team will make sure you get the most out of your house and everything goes smoothly when finding your new home. Buyer, seller, even first-time buyer, make sure you contact Lindsay at BroadwellHomes.com. She'll help with everything from start to close. Licensed realtor at Real Broker LLC. Start your search today at BroadwellHomes.com. Shep, if Halloween night is good for you, let's do it again at about 8 o'clock.
Yeah. Do you think the Lions will be talking about a Lions trade by then?
No.
Me either. I hope they will, but something's going to happen. I don't know when. What the Chiefs did today probably kickstarts a few things, right? With Josh Uche. Pretty good trade for them. Good job by that.
Screw the picks. Go all in. Push those chips in the table, baby.
And do you remember what they got for him or what they had to give up for him?
I saw it and I don't remember off the. It wasn't that much though. It just wasn't. It wasn't that much. It wasn't that much.
But Sean, real quick, this is what you and I have talked about before. The overvaluing. I think draft picks are important too. So don't get me wrong. But people suggesting that it's going to take X amount of draft picks, X amount of ones to get certain players is really ridiculous. I mean, you've really got to go back and look at what has happened in the past. You don't have to do that, okay? The Patriots gave him up for a 6th round draft pick. The Lions are going to get somebody. The Lions are going to get somebody, Zadarius Smith or somebody like that, and they're not going to have to give up that much.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah.
So,
oh, well.
Anyway.
All right. Thanks
brother.
again, my friend. Todd, thank you. Thanks to all you guys.
Todd.
We'll talk to you soon. God bless you. Keep hope alive.
See you Thursday. You got it.
Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian. Executive produced by Sean Baligian and Todd Losey. Theme song, incidental music, and related sound effects are from Still Alive by Anti-Ghost. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated Podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.